Alrighty, I'm recording here for Pod18, so this is going to be more so the format that I thought these pods were going to follow, at least at the beginning, where I was more so going to focus on reading news stories and sort of giving a take on them. And I guess one such story that came out today, at least I saw at 8:35 a.m. today, but whatever, it was a morning news story, and it was a pre-market open story, and it says, I'm just going to read here, DeepSeek has sparked deep freakout. Nice wordplay. The Chinese artificial intelligence upstart has trained high-performing AI models cheaply and without the most advanced gear provided by NVIDIA and others. That has pulled the rug from under global companies riding the AI wave, including chip makers, infrastructure suppliers, and power stocks. As investors question the outlook for AI spending, NVIDIA and other U.S. chip stocks tumbled pre-market, and futures pointed to one of the worst days for the NASDAQ 100 index in years. Bonds rallied and Bitcoin sank as investors sought safety. The rethink comes as a busy week for earnings gets underway with some of the biggest spenders on AI, such as Microsoft and Meta Platforms, among the companies due to update investors. Index futures sank, led by the NASDAQ 100. Global stocks largely fell. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, I don't think I said that right, bucked the trend. Treasuries rallied, pushing up prices and sending 10-year yield towards 4.5%. The dollar fell against the yen and the Swiss franc. Currencies usually seen as havens for investors, tariff worries have driven the dollar higher, but President Trump late Sunday backed off levy and sanctions threats made against, and I think that's Colombia. So it says DeepSeek have stunned Silicon Valley, could bring turbulence to Wall Street. They accomplished at a fraction of what the U.S. giants are spending, despite export bans on top-of-the-line chips. China's rapid advances suggest America's strategy of withholding technology from China might just be speeding up the evolution of its rivals' AI know-how. Alarming the likes of Meta, which announced Friday plans to invest $60 billion to $65 billion in capital investment this year as it scales up its own AI projects. Could be potentially bad news for NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA is down, 21 points off, $21 off their $24.77 off their share price, which is 117.85. So obviously that's a good chunk of their stock price that's gone down today. As of right now, it looks like the Dow Jones is actually up 125, which is more of the industrial average, and then the NASDAQ is down 698.96 right now, so almost 700 points, and the S&P is down 115. So broadly, things are down. Apple's up by 8.76, so not bad. And who else is up that should be mentioned here? I don't even want to linger too long on this and waste time on that, because broadly speaking, markets are just down for today, and it's kind of this, I guess it's a realization maybe that essentially, you always want to avoid the issue of putting your eggs too much in one basket, and the idea that everybody is seemingly groupthink style bought in on AI, regardless of, I think you can make your arguments in favor, against, etc. I'm not speaking against AI necessarily, just to say that I do think that a lot of people just kind of jumped on the idea that it was going to make it was going to just make such a big difference that it's fueling the stock market, broadly speaking, and economic growth in general, and yada yada yada. And I've asked people before, essentially, what is the power of AI beyond eventually simply the replacement of employees who will no longer be necessary because their services will be automated by processes that are better able to adapt and etc. to it. So like, what is the real long-term value of AI, and is it really the fact that it, makes people's jobs easier by making people more easily able to do easy tasks? Is that just a convenient excuse way of explaining it? I think when you talk about things that are written about economics and the marketplace, etc., there's always this element of there's a lot of hopeful thinking out there, and then what I think is interesting is when you read from American media about the marketplace, we always seem to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt and grace, and then when China does something that's aberrant, or when they're having, for example, kind of their youth unemployment issue, look at China, like they're so out of the norm, that they're so different, doing things so wrongly. Another example would be just kind of the discourse around COVID policy. I think anybody anywhere in the world, period, who's going to be crowing about their COVID policy, I think really needs to look hard in the mirror and see that the implementations of the policies, broadly speaking, and the way it was handled was just substantially less than ideal, and clearly not marked by characteristically rational sort of decision making. So there's that to consider. But I just think when we have these sort of market withdrawals, which again is actually, it's only 700 points, which to say the market's dropping by 700 points is not a nothing burger, but you see an article from somebody like Jamie Dimon saying, oh, well, I think the stock market's inflated, generally speaking. It's like, oh, congratulations, I'm glad you came to that opinion. When did you come to that opinion, and for what reason? But whatever for him, for the times he surfaces in his news articles where he gives his quotes and tells people he's not running for president, etc. I've had about enough of that. But that notwithstanding, I just think it's interesting that you look at economists, whether it's them starting to reposition right now as far as thinking that the Fed is going to cut interest rates. Hand up if you've been the one saying for months and months and years that interest rates are going to be higher for longer, and anybody looking at the situation realistically would have to conclude the same thing. Seemingly like the market is starting to come around to my, at least, point of view, or closer to where my point of view is. So, that's it. So I don't want to go too much longer necessarily, because that was real quick and I wanted to go through that. I did want to kind of look through the global newspaper, and this is just the Boston Globe here, but yeah, I do not give a shit about Maura Healey's political fortunes whatsoever, so I'm going to ignore that front page article. Colombia yields to Trump on deportees. Oh yeah, this was interesting because we were clashing with Colombia because we sent migrants back to Colombia and they didn't want to let them land. And one thing that's interesting now that Trump has been elected is that our government officials are now sounding like him, which, your opinion on whether you think that's a positive, I don't, but whatever. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said in a late Sunday statement that the government of Colombia has agreed all of President Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of all illegal aliens from Colombia returned from the United States, including on U.S. military aircraft without limitation or delay, said that tariff orders will be held in reserve and not signed. I could continue on, so I probably will actually flip that open to A7 unless I see. Oh, they're ending DEI. What's that? Would maintain visa restrictions on Colombian officials and enhance customs inspections from goods from the country until the first plane load of Colombian deportees successfully returned. The Colombian government's late Sunday said it considered as overcome the episode with the Trump administration. President Gustavo Petro reposted the statement from the White House on X. So, they are going along with this, but yeah, I just think it's interesting because, like it or not, with Trump, with these tariff threats and whether or not these things are being done in sort of a controlled and logical way, I think that, you see a country seemingly being like, well, we don't want to take these people. And then it's like, now the United States is at least in a position where it's like, no, you will. It's not sleepy Joe Biden running the fucking things and friggin' around half asleep and can't put a full friggin' sentence together talking about how he's gonna beat Medicaid in a goddamn presidential debate. Like, seriously, what the fuck were we doing? I voted for the man, but I wanted him either removed or at least removed as the candidate because he was so clearly not competent to do the job. And again, this is not to say that I support the broader immigration policies or the ending of diversity programs or any of these things. Or I'm also seeing here Elon Musk appearing at the concert or whatever the hell that was, and right after he does his Nazi salute. So whatever, he makes electric cars and rockets that get caught when we shoot them into the atmosphere, except for half of them that blow up. But he's allowed to do whatever he wants. South African gem mine, that's where his wealth is from, apparently. Anyway, so nice exchange over Greenland. Trump alarms Denmark. I saw that yesterday. What's the deal? Trump cuts pollution aid for Black Latino communities. EPA eliminated team advisors to ensure. Yeah, sure. The Justice 40. Yeah, boy. I mean, House more divided, less competitive after redistricting. Who could have wondered after several decades of horrendous gerrymandering by the right wing? Trump tests boundaries of American presidency. Yada yada. Oh, so I don't know. I mean, you guys think things are going well. I think things are slightly strange, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm almost as interested in doing my my stuff on my philosophy content and my presentations on Plato more so than any of that stupid shit. So, I just wanted to quickly record on this because I think there's really not a ton of material to go over right now. The market is still relatively speaking up, 700 points down, whatever, but if it was overinflated in the first place, then, essentially a little bit of air out of the balloon, isn't the craziest thing. It's not the most unexpected thing, and, that was just something that took me by surprise when I read that article about. I didn't even really analyze this, so I should real quick, but just the fact that this, it's basically just a chip maker, and I'm not the most tapped in on the chip maker sort of storylines and stuff, but it seems like the story is like they kind of came out of nowhere in terms of being able to outcompete the NVIDIA chips and the bigger, the more expensive chips, essentially, and do the work and get around the sanctions thing, all these sort of things. It's very interesting, but it shows, if somebody can do this sort of work that AI is supposedly going to do, and they can do it for way cheaper, then I don't want to hear anything from any companies like an NVIDIA trying to protest against this sort of thing. And then, frankly, if it can be done for cheaper, sort of makes you question the sort of blank check writing sort of approach that a lot of these companies seem like they've had over the past few years. And then just to put it in a broader context, with these people making up portions of people's portfolios and whatnot. I just think that you can't say that these companies just have their own prerogative to be, investing bajillions of dollars. It's like, I thought you people in investing were supposed to be able to point to return on investment and concrete things that point to why it is that your ideas are, better than somebody else's, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just an interesting situation that I saw today. But just to do a quick 15 on this before I get into my Plato material, I think it's well worth the time. So yeah, that's pod 18, and then pod 19, I'm just going to get back into the apology. So we're going to pick up right where I left off. So thank you.